Hello tool groupies, do-it-yourselfers, welcome to the Backwoods Mechanic channel. I am making a service repair call right now. It's the last one of the day, so we're going to do a how-to video on changing the alternator on a Ford Econoline van. Now the first thing you want to do is go ahead and remove all of this. Pull this bar up here, loosen this up, get your filter out of here, and it will give you access to everything that you're going to be working with here today. Now in order to change the belt, got to come down in here. There's a pulley down there that we're going to need to get a hold of. You're going to take the tension off that, pull the belt off. If you're changing just the serpentine belt, it will be really easy just to pull that off, put another one back on. Go ahead and dig into this. First thing you got to do is unhook your battery right here. Do the basic voltage test on this. I unchecked all the connections, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of things that you can test to do preliminary diagnostics to make sure that you don't have something as simple as a bad ground connection. Just to kind of show you some of the diagnostics that go into this, you can get yourself a multimeter, put your black on the black, your red on the red, positive and negative. Now if your battery is charging, it should be charging up around the 14 volt area. Whenever you turn it off, it should be right around 12 on the battery itself, because this is a relatively new battery. I actually installed this for the customer last August. And whenever you're reading something like this, that's a definite sign that your alternator is the problem. Now we're going to go ahead and get this terminal loosened up, get it took off of here, that way it unhooks the battery. We're going to pull our breather apparatus off here. These are generally 8mm on these vans if anyone has to do this. Clamp loosened up. Get this pulled off of here. Whenever you pull it loose from that breather hose, just kind of set it out to the side here and unplug that wiring harness and set it off to the side here. Now once you got to this point, you're going to have all the access you need to get down in here to the serpentine belt to pull it off. You can put the new one on, then you can hook your battery back up. You can start it up and see if it's going to recharge your battery or not. And as soon as you look down in here, you'll notice, because we got the fan here, water pump style, all that kind of stuff. You got this pulley right here. That's the one you're going to need to get yourself a breaker bar on and pull the tension off of this to get this belt off here. And you're going to want to make sure that you know exactly how that belt comes off whenever you're doing this job. Now if you do not have to change your serpentine belt, if it's not too loose or anything like that, then it's a fairly easy job, because all you would relatively have to do is pull it off of the alternator here and then lay it down there, keep everything else in place the best you can. But in this situation we're changing it too, so we're going to pull it off here. You're going to want to know the layout of that, and on most vehicles it should be right up front here. If you look at it, this is the 4.6 5.46.8 liter, and it shows you the direction this goes in. But some people might have that sticker wore off there beforehand, so make sure to check before you just pull the belt off, because I have seen people time and time again pull these things off and not have the first clue how to get them back on here. Now in this situation, you can also use one of these serpentine belt tools right here. This one's from Autocraft. They got them in a bunch of different name brands that they rebrand these in. All of them basically function the same. Stick your drive, which this one's the 1/2-inch drive, that one's the 3/8 drive. You can stick it right down inside of where that pulley is, put pressure on it, and it will take the tension off of that. So we're going to go ahead and take our 1/2-inch drive after bar here and stick it in place. Basically come down here, want to lock it in right there, that way it's ready to roll. Then we will take the other bar with the 3/8 drive adapter, and you stick it right inside this hole here. Once you got your bar hooked up right here, as you can see, I've already got the belt off. All you got to do, push down on this, turn it to the right. It provides the pressure you need, and it pulls it right off there nice and easy. If you got yourself some of them little cheap lights like you can get at Harbor Freight, Walmart, whatever, it provides lots of light down here. I'm going to go ahead and remove the old belt, put the brand new one on. Unfortunately, I'm unable to record doing this, but you should get the point of how we do this. Once that belt's off, I fish everything back around the pulleys that it goes on, place it back on your alternator. Then at that point in time, you can start up the vehicle after you plug your battery back up, just to see if it will give it any type of charge. I don't believe it's going to in this situation. We're going to check just so we can be thorough about it. Now that it's on here, it's definitely a lot tighter than what the other one was, so I'm going to start it up just to see if it's going to charge it any at all, or if that was the potential problem. More than likely it was not, but we're going to give it that option. I've been letting it run for about 5-10 minutes or so. Still hasn't changed a thing, so it's definitely the alternator. Go ahead and get her changed. Right now from the start, we're doing the alternator repair. We done got the breather and everything off here. We done got the battery unplugged. We done checked everything. Now we're gonna have to get the rest of this breather hose off right here. Come back here to this clamp. Go ahead, get it off here out of the way. That way you've got free range to move inside here. You do got a few little things you need to unplug on the back half of your breather here. Get that out of the way. Pull all this off, dive into it. And look back in here on these, you got this little green clip right here. All you gotta do is pull up on that clip, push it out, and it will unhook that hose. Ready to pull this straight off here. Just kind of set it up right here inside, out of the way, nothing major. But you got your breather out of the way and everything. You could take on this a few different ways. Some people like getting in back here, taking this bracket off, in which time you got 3 of these 10mm fasteners. Just gotta pull them out. Gives you straight access right there if you wanted to pull your connection apart. Go ahead, test everything right here, check everything, make sure there's no corrosion and all that. That's your best way to get to it right there. You do have a wiring harness here that needs to be unplugged, and this one here needs to be unplugged. But as far as taking the whole alternator off, you could take it apart fairly easy, set it outside here, and then test it from the back if you needed to. It's just whichever you prefer to do. Your main alternator fasteners or your bolts are right down here, and they are also going to be 10mm in size. Now I got my gear wrench here, and I got a little 1.5 inch extension on it with a CRAFTSMAN 10mm socket, because it's a little bit more shallow than what the gear wrench is, and it enables me to get right in here on it in this nice tight confined space. Got it nice and loosened up here. You could pull it out by hand. Right here is going to be your first bolt. Kind of set it up here out of the way. Now for the second one, I got my ratchet plus a 3-inch extension. Sometimes you might have to go between your belt. That way it gets right on there and it gets you past your actual pulleys. That way you can get a good grip on it, get you some leverage on it. Go ahead, break it loose, and then take it off here as well. And there's our second bolt. Get out of the way. So we got those. We just got to get this one loosened up. You got one right here that mounts to your alternator, and once you loosen this one up, your alternator will come right off here. Some people like getting in behind there and pulling their connections off before they pull the alternator off, but honestly, it's just fast to pull the entire thing off and lay it down here so you can check it. Right there's your third one. It's loose. Pull it right up here, turn it around, give her a look-see. And I had to take the fastener off of this. You're gonna wanna check everything while you're back here, check all your connections, make sure there's no loose wires. And if you run through and do the diagnostic part of this, then it would already tell you if you've lost some sort of connection between your battery and here, because sometimes these wires have issues. They'll corrode, they'll be frayed, something will happen along the way. They can get, tore up. And if you do the diagnostics on it, it shouldn't be entirely too bad to be able to determine if your wire's getting contact or not. But sometimes it's a matter of getting to the back of this to actually check it to begin with. But we'll do a video on that in the future, so stay tuned. Have us a screwdriver. Get rubber off of here. This was a little bit hard there, so it's definitely been in here a while. Very, very brittle. You see it split that right there? It's very, very brittle. Now, unfortunately, this has been in here so long, it's all dried, it's rock hard, so it's just peeling apart. You can replace that once to, which is what I recommend. We'll do it. If not, we will cover it up one way or another to protect it. It's also a 10mm, so you're going to want to go ahead and break that fastener loose. Get this wiring harness off here. There's the fastener. Pull right off of here. Inspect the back half of it. Don't look too bad. Now we need to unplug the wiring harness right there, right here. Now it's a good possibility that the voltage regulator is what's bad in these. Used to, you could just easily rebuild these things. Unfortunately, nobody in my particular area has anything to rebuild these tonight, so we're doing the whole new alternator. Now, if you're someone who has a pick set, you can take a pick and pull up on that little lever right there, pop that small one out. You could put a flathead screwdriver in between this one, just kind of wedge it in there, slightly twist it to the left, pry up on it, and it will pop these right off. Nice and easy, so you don't damage anything. You sure don't want to replace an entire wiring harness unless you have to. As always, inspect, make sure nothing's burned, corroded, anything like that. Make sure it's all good. Now we're ready to put the new one on. Put this back together again. It's that simple. Then you want to match everything up. Make sure these are the same type of alternators, that they mount up the correct way. Because if they don't match up, it ain't gonna work. They run the VIN number and everything, and it says it goes on this van. However, mount is on the back half right here instead of right there. and I'll take care of it whenever I go back in the morning. Might even discount it a little bit for the trouble, but the point being, and sometimes you run into situations like this where you're just unable to do so. CarQuest got me took care of. Like I said, we're going to be changing his air filter. I also got universal top post repair cable in case we need to extend that out. This is the right alternator, and the difference on these is the mounting bracket and that plug right there. One of them has a D-shaped plug, the other one's an oval-shaped plug. Now we are ready to throw this on here and get this customer on the road. Things first, go ahead and get all this stuff back down in here, get all of your plug-ins plugged back in, get your bolts all hooked back up. Two different plug-ins. You got this one wiring harness with the fastener. I got that one plugged up, this one plugged up. Whenever you put this wiring harness on, you got to make sure it's in between that plastic right there and that you get it on there right. If not, it won't go all the way down and it'll cause you a few problems. You definitely don't want some problems. Tighten this one up and we'll set it back in its seat. The final three fasteners in, get our belt put on. The alternator up. Remember, it goes on the front side, not the back side. All you got to do is line everything up, go ahead and get that back fastener in, and you can put the bottom two fasteners in. Just don't tighten it up, leave you some room to wiggle. See right here, I started the back one, I haven't tightened it up yet. It leaves you some room to pick up on this, kind of move it back and forth a little bit. That way you can get your bolts started in each one of their holes, and then you just got to run them up in there and tighten them down. The 1/4" drive flex head ratchet is just big enough to get inside here, get these things run up. I get our top one in here. After I get this one tightened down, I'm just going to kind of tighten it down with this 1/4" ratchet because it won't let me put entirely too much torque on it. That way I won't strip nothing out. And then we're going to snug these two up here. So my 120 XP here on it. That way I don't have to go as far back to engage. You just tighten it till it snugs up. If you got a torque wrench, you can put a torque wrench on there, no problem. So again, I'm gonna go straight underneath this belt right here. That way it gets me a little bit better leverage. And there we go. I'm gonna get my tension bar hooked back up here, push down, take the tensioner down, and put the belt over the alternator. As you can see right there. And then I will remove my tension bar, reassembling everything. Check, make sure it's on there pretty good, minus that side over there. As soon as I fire up the engine, it should lope it right back into those grooves. Everything else looks good. It's time to go ahead and reattach all of your breather assembly up here and get it all back in place. Put our new air filter in, plug our battery up, and get him on the road. Our hose here back on, you just push it down. Same thing as you took it off, you pull that little green clip up, push down on it, and it'll lock it into place like so. Go ahead and tighten your clamp back up, reinstall brand new filter, plug your wiring harness up here for the mass airflow, tighten up this clamp, reattach your filter. Whenever you do this, make sure that this little hump right here is going to go in line right in behind this. You got to raise this clip up, make sure it goes right there, and then slide this over both of the housing and lock it down. You know, make sure you got your fasteners in here that'll prevent that from moving. Lock this in place, tighten up the 8mm or the 5/16 fasteners here. Then we got to hook our battery up, put it on. Now you just got to get this fastener tightened up on your terminals here and then start her up, and let's check the voltage. As you can see, the alternator is charging as it is supposed to.